It was a day in 1960 that Mel Heglund won't soon forget. Mel, who lives in L'Orange, became part of a little-known piece of Saskatchewan history. He and his dad helped rescue a downed American U-2 spy plane that crashed on a frozen lake near L'Orange. Now, we answered a good question about this incident last week, but we were only able to reach Mel after the fact. Just too good a story, though, to let go. So we got Mel on the phone and asked him to tell us when he first heard the plane had crashed.
Well, my father and I were, of course, in the construction business, and we were building a winter road to Stanley Mission to get goods into the Hudson Bay store and in the schools and that. And we were working on the portage going into Stanley Mission, and we heard quite a racket going on up above us and couldn't really figure out what was going on. And so we looked up through the trees and saw helicopters. Couldn't figure out what the heck helicopters would be doing, and, you know, kind of a rarity back in them days. Anyway, and in a little while, I looked down the road a bit, and there's 4 or 5 guys walking up toward us, all in Air Force blues and that, and so they come up to us, and gee, you know, something's going on, and this colonel, he comes up and he introduces himself to my dad, and he said that they had a military airplane that had a problem and had landed on Wappawekka Lake. Anyway, this Air Force colonel asked my dad he'd like to rent our bulldozer there to go over, and they wanted to make a runway so that they could get this thing out. Apparently it had only minor problems. They didn't elaborate.
They didn't tell you anything else about the plane or how it came to be there?
No, not a thing. That it was a military airplane that had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt that they could get it repaired and out of there. But anyway, my dad, he was kind of hesitant. He said, look, I'm kind of in a jam here too, because we have to get this road built into Stanley Mission and get the goods in there, and I really don't have too much time to waste. Anyway, they talked on, and the colonel finally said, look, if you won't rent us your tractor, will you sell it?
Sell it?
Yeah. He said, we'll buy it from you. So they started to sound a little desperate. And anyway, after a few minutes, my dad decided, gee, maybe they really do have a problem, and so then he decided, yeah, okay, we'll do it, but we have to, get at it right away. And they made a deal, and the tractor took off with a couple of drivers and a caboose sleigh and their fuel and all this stuff to travel over that way. They got it over there, and they bulldozed this runway about, probably 30, 40 meters wide and around 300 meters long.
Well, how about you? Did you go along with them?
I come in the next day to L'Orange, and then they flew me over to the site.
Mm-hmm.
The RCAF were in with their single otters and all their paraphernalia. So they flew me over to where the airplane was, and the boys that had arrived in the early morning and had the runway almost done by the time I got there. And
as you got there, tell me what you saw.
Well, we saw several tents there and several fellows with good-sized guns standing there.
Guns?
They wouldn't let us right up to the airplane.
Did you see the airplane, though?
Oh yeah. It's a big, sort of a black-gray, long wingspan and slender fuselage, and there was guys working around it, and a helicopter had come in from the Paw, Manitoba. They had landed over at the Paw to bring in a starting unit.
Tell me more about the plane. Anything you can remember about what it looked like?
Oh, I don't know. The wingspan on it probably was 150 feet or something like that. Slender wing, built something like a glider.
Did you know what it was? What kind of a plane it was?
Oh no, we had no idea what it was. Of course, we had never even heard of a U-2 then.
Yeah, have you looked into it since and confirmed that that's what it was?
Oh, it definitely was a U-2. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
You must have wondered at that point what the heck was going on. What did you think?
When we were talking to the fellows over at the site there, they kind of mumbled that it was a high weather airplane that was doing research research on weather and stuff like this.
And were you buying that?
Well, I guess I don't think we had much choice but to buy it.
Now, what?
Because we had no idea what was going on and or what the military was up to. And
what did you find out about how the pilot came to land there? About what happened?
Well, he just apparently had flame out, or the engine quit on him anyway, and he come down through the clouds and apparently saw this big lake out there and decided, the airplane's still all in one piece, and he put the gear down and landed, and it's, and where he landed was, the snow was relatively soft, so, and on those airplanes, they had a set of gear right down the center of the airplane,
Mm-hmm.
so that when he landed and it slowed right down, of course, it tipped to one side,
He was long gone by the time you got there, though, was he?
Oh, yeah, because there had been a helicopter, fortunately, at the Mid-Canada radar line, which was just a few kilometers from there. They went over and picked him up and took him out. And one thing that the pilot had wrote on the side of the airplane, in big letters with yellow chalk, was Lockheed Lemon.
No.
So anyway, short while after we got there, the strip was cleared, and they had brought in another pilot to fly the thing out of there. And they started it up, and I'll tell you, they made one hell of a big skating rink behind there with that engine revving up, and golly, he took off out of there, and less than 1,000 feet, he was gone.
What was the takeoff like? What was it like watching that?
Oh, it was, really, for the size of the airplane, quite awesome to watch it lift off the ground in that short a time. And apparently, from what they were telling us there, that it went to Coal Lake and landed over at the military base at Coal Lake.
You must have been left with a whole lot of questions after seeing this.
Well, a bit, but not really that much, because the people of Laurent at that time, it was a military airplane, or it was an airplane, and of course airplane, there was lots of them around the Laurent area.
What did they say to you about what you had seen?
Well, when it was all over and done with, the fellow says, well, we'll square up with you, and he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out a roll of bills that I've never saw a roll that big before.
How much money?
I don't remember really how much it was, but I remember my dad bought a pretty fancy new car in the spring of the year.
Holy crow! That was a lot of money.
So it was a substantial amount, and as he was paying me off, he says, now, you really didn't see anything that we don't have in the military. He says, just an airplane that went down, and he said, I'd appreciate if you wouldn't, say anything or describe the thing to anybody, and I said, no, he kept peeling these bills off, and I said, no way. And so for years we really, just never said anything about it.
You kept it a secret for them?
Well, more or less, yeah.
Yeah.
They paid the bills, so.
Is that why it's so little known? We were reading about a newspaper column just a little while ago where the guy said there's very little evidence to support that this ever happened.
Like I say, it wasn't broadcast around at all, and especially back in them days when there was no telephones, that kind of slowed things off, and that was about it. It was forgotten quite quickly in the community.
So when did you start talking about it?
Oh, probably 10, 15 years ago.
And what kind of reaction do you get from people to this story?
Not too much. Just thought, oh, gee, you too. By then, the U2 incident with Gary Powers and that had come out, and I did see a picture in the paper a few years later of a U2 that Powers had went down in.
And it looked awfully familiar. Hey?
Well, it looked off. It sure did.
Mr. Heglund, that is quite a story. Thanks very much for telling us about it.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good morning.
You too.
Bye now.
You too. Mel Heglund lives and works in Laurent.